Hi, everyone, and welcome to our February broadcast. We're very happy to have James and Joan McKinlay join us for the evening from Silver Springs Farm. They'll be talking with us tonight for mentoring the next generation and the succession plan that they have for their operation and the work that they've done. Just before we get started, if you missed our last webinar, don't worry, you can find that one as well as all of our past webinars on our website at ontariobeef.com/bfoUP_webinars. And there's lots of good information there as well if you're a young producer or a starting producer to get started there. And so I encourage you to go take a look there and check out those past webinars. Another fun and really informative mentorship program that is coming out of the Canadian Cattlemen's Association is the Cattlemen's Young Leaders Program. It's a program that is a mentorship program, so you can apply and it comes from every province, and you could potentially get chosen to go into the semi-finalist aspect of it, which then goes, you would participate at the Canadian Beef Industry Conference, which is happening this year. And that in itself is a really great experience. And then if you get further along with that, you get partnered with a mentor, which could be from across Canada or even North America. And that's somebody who's in the beef industry whose interests kind of coincide with yours. And it's just a really great opportunity to take part, and you can travel along with it. And having been a participant in it myself, I really encourage you, if you're interested, to really take part. So it's something to definitely look into, and I encourage you to check it out. And if you have any other questions about it, I encourage you to talk to me about it, or you can reach out to the contacts on their website, and there's a lot of great information there to take a look. You can learn more about the different programs and stuff that are being offered on our website. If you're looking for weekly news and updates about what's happening with BFO and in the beef industry, you sign up for our weekly e-newsletter on our website. It's called the Bulletin Board, as well as social media. That's a great place to go to look for information on what's coming up and what's happening, especially for young producers. There's lots of good information there, so I really encourage you to check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those great spots. And our March webinar is coming up. I just need to confirm the date with our speakers for that. It's going to be focused on Ontario's risk management program and how that might be able to help you on your farm, and just finding a little more insurance with the fluctuations, that sort of thing. So it is coming, the details are coming soon, so just stay tuned on that front. So with that, I would like to turn it over to James and Joan McKinlay, who are our panelists for the evening. They have a really good story about how they've gone about with succession planning on their farm, and the mentorships that they have built up with different young producers in their area and how they've gone about that. So with that, I'm going to move it on over to them. So just give me 2 seconds.
Thank you very much, Bethany, and certainly we appreciate the opportunity to address the group that's out there tonight. We don't know where you are or what age you are or who you are, but we certainly appreciate this opportunity to speak about what we're doing on our farm. And I should also mention that we have quite a cast out there tonight. So in Ridgetown is Ethan, and we're hoping Julie gets back from her work, as well as Jason, so 3 in Ridgetown. And at our home operation here, my wife Joan, and another one of our people we're working with, Tom, and in Guelph, our son Robert as well. So it was mentioned we're doing something a little different with succession on our farm. And I personally don't like the term succession, because to me it infers that there's an end point. And so I guess my preference is that we're in transition. And so we firmly believe that if we're going to have a next generation of young beef producers, young people involved in agriculture, that we as kind of established producers are going to have to step up to the plate and become creative and figure out ways that young, keen individuals can get involved in agriculture or beef production or as cow-calf producers. And as far as I know, there isn't a book written or there isn't a template, so there is no right or wrong way of doing this. And so I'm certainly not advocating that what we're doing is going to fit in other operations or other places, but it is a starting point, and I guess to me, we just have to make a start at this, and there'll be other brighter minds than us that'll come up with the better ideas and a better transition plan. And certainly, I believe there'll be young people step up to the plate if they're given the opportunity. So just to give a bit of background, I'm stalled here, Joan. We're just having a bit of trouble getting to the next slide here. I'll continue. So just to give you a bit of background, we're farming in the northeastern part of Grey County on top of the Blue Mountains. So we actually farm on the side that they don't ski on. Here we are on the left-hand slide, and I hope you all have access to those slides. My wife Joan and I, and the right-hand side, myself and our son Robert. And here we are playing in the dirt, and I think that's fundamentally what all people want to do. And I'm just really privileged that I get to do it each and every day. So being on top of the Blue Mountains, we're kind of playground for Toronto. The farmland prices have been dictated by non-farmers since basically the mid-70s or early mid-60s, early 70s. So it made it difficult for us to purchase land, but it did create the opportunity for me to rent land and rent it quite economically. And actually, I rented my first farm when I was still in high school. So I have a bunch of years under my belt, and I hope I have a whole bunch of years still ahead of me to farm. And I think one of the reasons that I will have a whole bunch of years ahead of me still to farm is the fact that we are working with the younger generation. So we kind of coin it farming forever. So a bit about our operation, and I think I have to give you a bit of background to what we're doing and the people that we're involved in. So we calve about 150 cows. I think it's about 160 this spring on our home operation. And we're working with primarily a Red Angus Simmental cow base, so purebreds, and crossing them. So I certainly believe that every calf should have a good mother. So we're certainly put a big emphasis on strong maternal traits within our cow herd, and then subsequently in the offspring that we are producing and the offspring that we subsequently can sell. So we're developing roughly 80 to 90 heifers per year, and we can market about 20 bulls. On the left-hand slide is the heifer calves from 18, so taken here a month or so ago. Our preference, we will breed all of these heifers. Our preference is to sell them as breds, and that's normally what takes place on our operation. And I guess being able to sell them as breds, we just know that we're going to have a better success story. We're going to have a tighter group of heifers to calve for our customers, and hopefully a greater success story. And we're looking for that repeat customer. So we rely a lot on repeat customers. On the right-hand side is the bull development barn, and we focus not only on the convenient traits that the Red Angus and Simmental do provide, but also on focus on our selection on the highly heritable traits of growth rate and carcass. We've always had a passion for information, and I always think it's kind of interesting that if you're buying corn seed or soybean seed, we always check all the data on go corn or go soybeans, but and we put the same emphasis on our cattle as well. We've been involved in the red meat clubs probably about 35 years ago, so we have 35 years of data, and I realize with the audience that we may have tonight, I'm probably kind of dating myself, but we've been collecting data on our cow herd and through our calves for about 35 years. We've been testing bulls since 1989, and we've actually had our home test since 1999. So on the bull side of things, we hope to target roughly an average of a 4-pound per day gain while they're on test. It is a supervised test through used to be bio-ag sites, so they're weighed every 28 days, and then at the end of test they're ultrasounded. And then on the heifer calves, I should have mentioned we're targeting roughly the 2 or 2+ pound a day. So because of the cow herd and because of our location and because of our topography, forages are essentially the foundation of our operation. So we're growing forages for a hay crop and pasture crop to support our cow herd. And we typically wrap a lot of hay, and this is an offshoot of having off-farm jobs and when we're forming the herd, and just a way of timely harvest. And I guess to me, by having that option of wrapping the hay, we improve the quality and timeliness of every bale. So I guess in essence, it's because of topography to support our cow herd and also to value add to the forages that we do have the cow herd. Two things that in my lifetime have really revolutionized the beef industry, and particularly with the cow end of the beef industry, the round baler and the electric fencer. And to me, that just enables one person to much more handle greater numbers and certainly more effectively manage those livestock. As well, we crop about 800 acres. So that's in cereals, so winter wheat and spring cereals, corn, canola, soybeans, and red clover. And because of our elevation and our location, we are in a short season area. And I have to be realistic, the 2018 yields are not average. So certainly our corn yields and our soybean yields were above average. And our cereal yields and canola yields were below average. And I guess I should just emphasize on this picture, when you look at those pictures, and those are fairly current pictures, we kind of have an 80s look, so we've utilized a lot of older equipment and used equipment, and that's kind of spun off onto the group of young people that we're working with as well. We also have some we have 3 farms on Manitoulin Island, and we have cattle up there with the help of the people up there. So 2 sets of cows, 1 group of cows we're managing with hired help, and 1 set of cows is on shares. And I guess our reason for Manitoulin, there's always been kind of a draw to Manitoulin, I guess, for me, but also because certainly much cheaper land than in our area. It's a growing season very similar to our area, and to me, another area that grows forages really, really well. That area also benefits from good management, so we've seen a tremendous benefit to tile drainage, fertilizer, and rotational grazing. And we're trying to do that on the owned land that we have up there. So we calve a bit later up there. The home group, we will be starting calving about the middle of March. The group on Manitoulin a little over 3 weeks later. And then we bring those calves home. We do have a few calves up there on feed this past winter, but the majority of the calves we bring home. That would be the weekend, the last weekend the boat's running. So the weekend after Thanksgiving. And the picture on the bottom right, that's just Robert with actually Jason and Jason's family trailer bringing a load of calves home in the fall. I guess the people part, to me, that's the really important part. And I guess all my life we've been trying to build teams and a team spirit and team cooperation. And I was fortunate to end up with Joan, or Joan with me. I'm not sure what it is, but anyway, I think we make a reasonable team. And Joan is a Guelph graduate in 1978. She worked for OMAF for a bunch of years, so started in Middlesex County and then moved to Grey Bruce and Dufferin as a soil and crop advisor. She's a lifelong learner, and certainly she enjoys the people end of the business and socializing, so a real people person. I'm a Centralia graduate, 1976, in the Agriculture Business Management program. After graduation, I had the opportunity to work at the college in the agronomy and engineering division. While at the college there, they encouraged me to get a degree just if I wanted to go anywhere in OMAP, and certainly they encouraged me to go to the States where I would have gotten credit for what I did at the college. I didn't go that route. I went to Guelph 1 year, took subjects in the 3rd and 4th year crop science major and also some animal science courses. And I guess we had a parting of the ways. They thought I should start at year 1, and I thought I should graduate after 2 years from Guelph. So, but anyway, I had that opportunity to go to Guelph. I then worked for about 20 years for the CM Hincks Treatment Facility. It's a treatment facility for emotionally disturbed teenagers set in a rural setting. So originally I was hired to give direction to a very modest farm program. But because of the nature of the job and the nature of the kids, 98% of my energy and time was related to kid care. So, and that was a gift. I really enjoyed that opportunity. In 1998, and we were 43 at the time, Robert was born. So at that time, we actually quit our off-farm employment to become full-time parents and I guess part-time farmers. So one of the interesting things about being an older parent, and so when you're approaching 60 or 60 plus, you get to hang out with a lot of teens because Robert, there's always a bunch of young people always at our place, and I tended to always gravitate more towards young people. That's where in a group I would tend to focus my energy and where I would spend my time, and I just found I learned a whole lot more from them, and I just sometimes in my peer group, they tended to focus more on their ailments and doctor appointments or number of grandchildren they had or the fact there weren't going to be any more grandchildren. So I tended to focus more on the young people, and I do that to this day. So Joan and I think we complement each other. I tend to jump off on new ideas and branch out and out of the box thinker, and Joan is as well, but she takes more of the role of the collie dog and brings him back in and gathers up the pieces and looks after the details. So I have had the opportunity to work with teens for 45 years. This will be my 46th year. I hired teens as a teen. And I guess historically, we've mainly worked with kind of the age range from 12 to 17. I always felt we were a launching pad. So when you get them at 12 to 13 and 14, they'll drive a vehicle anywhere. And then when they get to be 15, they're too close to getting the license and don't want to drive. And then when they get to be 16, 17, they can drive and they're off on to another project or opportunity, and we were okay about that. That's the role that we felt we played, was that we were a launching pad. And I guess I always really enjoyed working with teens just because of and we were just so fortunate, the incredible work ethic they brought, the energy, the positive attitude. They didn't know you couldn't do stuff, and they always questioned you. So it was invigorating just always working with teenagers. And I guess a bit of an evolution the last 2 or 3 years. The teens that usually we launched didn't leave. And so it ended up we were working with some 18, 19, and now 20-year-old young people, and kind of ended up in a bit of a paradigm shift. So we had to change how we normally worked with teens and wanted to continue challenging in that. I guess fundamentally kind of who we are, we operate under some guiding principles. We're passionate about what we do. We're passionate about agriculture. I love work. I love projects, and I get to play in the dirt every day, and I enjoy livestock. And we're passionate about youth and young people. So they come with energy, positive attitudes, willing to work, and just question. And to me, with those two passions, I believe in the combination of working with youth. I think it's a powerful force. some of the fundamentals that I operate under, just to give, I never dream of, I view myself as the steward of the land, so I'm just the caretaker. And I don't dream of the farm sale. That is never in my thoughts. That's never on the horizon. I never dream of the dispersal. I spent a lifetime, or Joan and I have spent a lifetime in building the cow herd. We're really happy and proud of what we have accomplished. I want to see that continue. My goal is to make the pie bigger. I'm not interested in dividing it up. I'm interested in growing it, trying to make it bigger. Some other fundamentals, and certainly we try to instill these thoughts in the young people that we work with, is that you have to do something that others aren't doing or don't want to do. You have to do it better than others, or you have to do it cheaper than others. And then fundamentally, when they're doing chores here, and I always am reminding of this, check, check, recheck, and then repeat. So always second guess yourself, always question, did we get that right? And the other thing is, when they're operating equipment or working with livestock or have a question on an animal's health or well-being, if it doesn't seem right, it probably isn't. And never say never, and never say always. So that brings us, and I mentioned earlier that we were launching pad, and the young people left when they were 17, and I'm just going to highlight some of the young people that we're currently working with. We mentioned earlier, Jason McKig is currently at Ridgetown. So Jason is going to graduate this spring from Ridgetown College. And Jason started with us at age 12. And as with all kids that we worked with over the years, probably some of the first jobs they did was picking stones and stuff like that. And if they keep coming back, you've certainly sorted out the ones you want to work with. Jason's very mechanically inclined, so when we have a fix-it job, when we have a repair job, it's usually Jason that comes forward, and we always call on Jason's expertise. And I guess when Jason got to the normal stage, when we normally launch these kids, and he was still keen on continuing, and we were certainly thankful he wanted to continue. That's when we started into a very small cows on shares basis, so working first with Jason with some cows on shares. So Jason and his family, they have a small acreage just outside of Thornbury. His mom and dad have sheep flock, and they had a few cattle, and so we just added to that, and they were kind of Jason's cows, and we went with that, and we've grown from there. So we've grown from the cows on share basis to we're actually financing some cows now with Jason so that he can build equity. And kind of an interesting scenario in the fall of 17. So Jason was just starting college and actually had gone to college. This was in September. I noticed a dispersal sale at Katy, and it was kind of in our area, the cows, and a set of Simmental cows. And so Joan and I went and looked at them, and in our discussions with the owner, realized that he still enjoyed cows. He wasn't selling the farm. He didn't want the farm plowed up. He liked it in forages, and he actually really enjoyed cows. But he wanted that opportunity to get away for a week or a couple of weeks to go camping or fishing or whatever, and just have the flexibility to get away. So I guess that just spelled opportunity for me, and Joan and I talked about it. And then when Jason was back on the weekend, we talked with him. And I think he and Robert then went for a visit, and then the next weekend, Jason and his mom went and talked with the landowner. So we were able to negotiate a rental arrangement. And again, we have to realize that Jason was still in college. But the deal was if we bought some of the cows at his dispersal, they could go back to the farm. And the former owner of those cows, the owner of the land, was prepared to feed those cows for the winter for Jason, recognizing that it was college. And so that's how we got through the first winter. And then Jason made the feed on that farm and got it tucked away. and the landowner is still feeding the cows while Jason's in second year. So I mentioned about Jason's incredible mechanical ability. So the bottom right is Jason baling hay with his $3,000 round baler, and that hay would have been cut with a $450 hay bine, and Jason can make them work. So certainly they're looking at the dollars, they're trying to make this work, they're conscious of the economics in the beef business, but they're adjusting their sites accordingly. Jason marketed his calves at Katy this past fall, the ones that we financed for him, and had them in an owner lot, and he certainly had them well prepared, so they were well vaccinated, they looked the part, and I was happy. I think he got paid for them as well. So he grossed over 1,200 on the calves, and they were born on grass, no creep, and a dry summer. So certainly the calves did exceptionally well, and I think Jason recognized the importance of some genetics and certainly challenging those calves with quality feed and pasture. The second one that I want to highlight as far as young people that we're currently working with, Julie, and Julie ended up marrying Ethan, and both of them are at Ridgetown. Ethan's in his second year, and Julie graduated from Ridgetown last spring, in the spring of 18. Julie and Ethan were probably some of Robert's best friends all through high school, and be darned if they didn't get married to each other. And so they're certainly a great team. And Julie's working for Lely, and they're both great workers and always looking for opportunities and certainly not afraid of work. So we first had contact with Julie in January of 2014, and I need to digress here just a moment. In January of 2014, Joan actually had a stroke, and we didn't sign up for that program, but certainly we got through it. And Julie and her mom came different times to visit us and brought us food, their neighbors, and in the course of conversation, Julie wanted to come to us as a co-op student. And we did everything in our power to discourage her and every reason why she should go elsewhere. But anyway, we found out you don't say no to Julie and you don't say no to her mom. So we ended up having Julie as a co-op student. She did a three-way co-op, and we shared her in the second half. And it turned out very positive experience on a whole bunch of different fronts, on a whole bunch of different people. So from Joan's standpoint, very therapeutic, I think, in her rehabilitation. I think for Julie, it instilled a passion for agriculture, a hunger for knowledge, and certainly they've really embraced the agriculture thing wholeheartedly. So it ended up being a very positive experience for us. In bottom right is a pasture farm Julie and Ethan just rented this past summer, and they incorporated a nose pump to pump water out of a small water course so the cattle actually don't have access to it. But that's just indicative of their love of livestock, their love of farming, their love for each other, certainly real innovators in pasture and pasture management, and really good marketers of beef. So kind of the transition, we ended up with Julie as a co-op student, and then she has had a few cows on shares with us, and then they ended up going actually to Ethan when that relationship was blossoming, and then to the point where this past year they've launched their own branded beef program, and it's certainly been very successful as well. And in the bottom right, you'll see or on the right-hand side, you'll see their brochure, and certainly there has their contact through Facebook. So they've certainly utilized social media as a way and means of marketing of their beef. And they also were mentored by the Buis family in Chatham as far as their beef program. So do have a number of outlets for their beef, and we're basically wrapping up the Cows on Share program because they're embarking on other opportunities to grow their herd as well. So actually, those cows that were on shares with Julie are likely going to be transferred to Jason this spring. The third party that we're working with, Tom Aikens, and Tom's with us here tonight, so he's keeping me straight and honest here. So he came to us in the fall of 2016 and indicated that he wanted to do a co-op with us. And interesting, again, in December of 16, I had a bit of an event with a hip and a pelvis and really thought I couldn't commit to it. But Tom, like Julie, basically said he was coming. So it's great that these young people can make decisions and are very forthright. So we actually shared Tom in that would be the spring of 2017, starting in February. We shared him with a dairy farm. And as the spring progressed, it ended up that Tom spent more time with us in that April, May, and June period. And I guess we got a real good sense of his work ethic, of his ability, of his passion for agriculture. And we knew that Tom comes with incredible carpentry skills. We knew there were carpentry type jobs out there for Tom that paid more than what we were offering, but we offered him a job, and he did accept that, and we're really fortunate we did. So he started in June of 17. And just to quote Jim Snyder's a person that I've kind of worked with and kind of he helped mentor us, I guess, and one of his quotes was, if you get the chance to hire the right people, just say yes. Figure out what they're going to do later. So I'm just really glad that we said yes to Tom, because it's been a wonderful relationship that we've built. So just a bit of the history of Tom. 2017, the winter spring, came as a co-op student. We hired him full-time in June of 17. And 1 year later, in June of 18, on his 19th birthday, he had a set of cows on shares, a farm rented, owned a tractor, a haybine, a rake, and a baler. So incredible the progress and that this young guy has made. We did help him. Tom found the farm. We helped him. It seemed to be a bit complicated negotiating the lease, so we certainly helped him in negotiating that lease, just because we had a little more experience in doing that. But I think he learned a lot in that process. And then with his tractor purchased, we were involved a bit on the periphery, helping him negotiate that. And I had kind of suggested a price that I thought would be pretty fair and work good for him. And he was able to negotiate that price and got 2 hats and a coat. So he's a good negotiator. So most recently, we've sold heifers to Tom that are going to calve in 19, and we're financing those cattle over a 4-year period. So the first payment in 2020. So as of today, Tom has a set of summer calves that actually are not weaned, but he's backgrounding, so creep feeding, and we're targeting a market for grass cattle in that end of April time period. So the one thing that's fundamental to all of these young people is they're not afraid of challenges, and they're great at recognizing opportunities. And the case of Tom, he's a fix and repair kind of a guy. He's been involved in 3 building projects on our place, and 2 at our home front and 1 up on Manitoulin. So has excellent carpentry skills. He certainly has an uncanny ability to follow Kijiji and find the lowest cost fences and gates around. So he kind of has that market cornered. Bottom right is the picture of the tractor he purchased in end of May, June. And behind him is a $650 haybine. So the market for haybines is strong and rising, but both Jason and Tom have been able to make these lower cost equipment certainly work for him. And I think it's incredible what Tom's accomplished as well, that in the first year was able to produce sufficient hay for the cow herd that he's managing, and actually had some surplus hay to sell as well. And I guess just talking about all the three groups, Jason and Ethan and Julie and Tom, the one core thing that's fundamental to them all is none of them are afraid of work, and they work well together. So even though they're on separate operations and kind of we're the focal point maybe for them to some extent, and they support each other, they share information. There was some ground came up for rent through Grace Sobel, the Conservation Authority in our area, and they shared that information, and actually two of the parties we're working with were able to access some of that land. So just the scale that they're on, and I realize that I don't think we've led them on. I think they understand they need other forms of employment as they're growing and developing their business, but the three groups are going to calve, I believe, right around 100 cows, if not in excess of 100 cows in 2019. So I guess for us, because we have to be part of it too, why are we doing this? And again, I don't like the term succession. I think that there's an end point implied with succession. So I'm looking at this more in transition. So I still enjoy working with youth. They're young, they have bright ideas, they're keen, they're ambitious, they're passionate about agriculture and passionate about life, and I want to get a piece of that. So it allows us to think through a younger mind and be involved with younger minds and people with energy. It provides the opportunity for us to share some of our philosophies and life experiences, to share some of our breeding strategies and hopefully some of the market that we've developed over the years. And the one thing that's interesting, I guess all four of them have worked for us at one point, and it's just a given that you rotate pastures, that you fertilize pastures. So they're all good at pasture management. And I guess fundamentally, it allows us to build cooperative relationships for the future. And I'm certainly a realist. I understand that these people aren't going to work for us forever. They aren't going to be part of our operation, but I guess hopefully we have a chance to help get them launched into the next stage and create a new young beef producer out there to continue some of my passion for agriculture that Joan and I share. So I guess just in summary, and there was an article in the December 25th edition of Ontario Farmer written by Ray Ford, and it was a tribute to Claus Wand, who passed away early in December, and Claus was a new immigrant to our country and very much a contributing member of our society, a dairy producer, and then a beef producer and a sheep producer, and involved in aquaculture as well, and just involved in a lot of different things in agriculture. And Claus Wand and his peers were issuing a challenge to make the most of the opportunities we're given and to do the most good for the most people that we can. And I guess that summarizes for me. I was given gifts. I was giving opportunities. I want to try to pass those gifts and opportunities on to other people so they can do likewise. So it's been a real gift to work with these young people. We don't have a set template. There isn't a book I can pull off the shelf to share with other people. But to me, there's many people in my age group that view themselves as stewards of the land and wish to see their land continue in agriculture. And maybe the almighty dollar won't dictate all the decisions that they made, but I think we all have to step up to the plate if we want young people involved in agriculture. So I certainly appreciate the opportunity that we had to address whatever the group is tonight. And again, there's myself and Joan and Tom on the home fronts here, and Robert in Guelph, and Ethan and Julie and Jason in Ridgetown. And we're certainly open to questions that may come. So I'm going to turn it back over to Bethany. Thank you very much for your attention.
That's great. Thanks so much, James. So I think that was an awesome presentation for what we and our industry can do to help young producers really just take the initiative and step forward and do what they love and do what they're passionate about if they're looking to do that. So with that, I'm going to bring on Robert and Ethan and Jason. So guys, I've unmuted you guys, so you guys can turn on your webcams if you wanted to. And if anybody has any questions that they want to ask these guys, and James and Joan and Tom, who unfortunately don't have a webcam that they can join us with, but we have these guys here, then feel free to type in some questions to ask. So just as people might be thinking to ask some questions of you guys, just to get started, just to all of you, but a little more, I guess, to James, just to clarify a little bit. When you were starting these guys with cows on shares, that kind of system that you had with them, how did you kind of get that started? Because obviously they'd been working with you a little bit for you to kind of build up some trust and have worked with them and known what they were like a little bit. So did they first approach you that they wanted to work with you and to maybe get some partnerships with you with your cows, or did you kind of think, hey, maybe I'll reach out to them and see what they want to do? So how did that first come about with your cows on shares kind of program that you have there, and kind of?
Yeah. So James here, and I'll maybe jump in, and certainly Joan can add. So I guess we recognized that we had really, really good employees and really, really good people. And so I guess you're always looking, how do you retain those people? How do you keep them keen? How do you keep them interested? And we sensed that they were enjoying working with us or being involved with us as well. So I guess you just try to take that to the next level. So I don't think there ever was an aha moment, but I think it was just over time that we recognized there might be the opportunity. So we presented that opportunity to them. And we have pretty flexible terms on some of these cows, and so it was just it seemed like a natural evolution that they go to the next step. And I guess my effort always is to try for them or to enable them to start building equity. So we kind of went from the cow share scenario to financing the cows so that they can build equity in a cow herd of their own, sort of thing. So I guess it was just recognizing that they had abilities, and we had a comfort level with them, and they were all close enough that we got called in when we had the whoopses and when things didn't go right, and we dealt with those collectively.
Okay, so I have a question that's coming here for you guys as young producers. So I'm just going to read it out here. Are you, as young producers, establishing and using operating lines of credit with traditional lending institutions? And how have your experiences been with access capital to make purchases so far?
Ethan and Julie, yeah, you go.
So with respect to that, yeah, so we haven't really had to make any big purchases so that we would need large loans. I guess the one thing we did do, we did get a baler. We're just kind of working through the process of buying a baler, and we went through farm credit for that. And I don't know if it was because we were married and the two people, you know, maybe it's easier to get a loan that way, but it was pretty easy going process. It wasn't very difficult to, like, they seemed pretty confident that we would be able to get the money. You know, it was, I don't know, $7,000 or something like that, nothing crazy. But going forward, I think this year we hope to, you know, the line of credit. So that's kind of the next project, getting that lined up. I don't know what it's going to be like, difficulty and how much we can get being so young and, you know, not owning land or owning, you know, fairly large assets or whatever. But FCC's been good so far. I don't know what else.
Should get a good discount for that commercial break anyway, Ethan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think one of the challenges, if I could just jump in, one of the guys, and maybe Tom will comment here too, has a dream, and with Tom, they aren't dreams, he makes them become reality. But one of the big hurdles for him in considering a land purchase is getting that initial 25%. And that's a bit of a hurdle for sure. And I think similarly for Ethan and Julie and Jason as well.
25% is a big number.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're dealing with big numbers when we get to land. Yeah.
Just another question. For the co-ops, because you had Tom and Julie both come to you on co-ops, how did they go about kind of discovering you as co-ops? Like, how did that come about?
In both cases, we tried to discourage them quite a bit, but they kept saying they wanted to come, and we're totally sold on the program now. It's a real opportunity for somebody to get exposed to what goes on a farm, and we certainly, when Tom had a little easier job than Julie convincing us to come, because we had Julie for the first part. I guess the first thing is you just wonder how a new person is going to fit into the operation, but you realize once they're here, then you start finding jobs and it starts to work, and they need to be keen and asking questions, and so it's a learning process for both them and for us.
Was it through their high school? Was that what it was?
Oh, yes, it was a high school co-op program. And Robert has taken co-op programs as well in different areas. So certainly it's one of the best programs at the high schools, just to get out and see what the work world is really like.
I think it may vary from high school to high school, but in the case of the Meaford High School, they were very pro the co-op program. That program was really supported and encouraged, and I think the same in the Stainer. Maybe Tom can comment on that because he did a number of different co-ops.
Yeah, Stainer was very flexible with what they were willing to let you do. And for me, the co-op program was unbelievable for an opportunity because you get to be there and they don't have to pay you. So it kind of works for everybody.
It'd be nice if they paid you though, eh, Tom? Yeah.
I guess another thing about the co-op program too is somebody watching this webinar wanting to get involved with that is talking to the schools and getting involved, talking with the people who, whether it's the guidance counselor who does that or whoever runs the co-op program, they're pretty keen to get new spots and hear from new people. I know our guy who did it, he was really good, and I don't know, he always gave you lots of options when you were looking for somewhere to co-op, and they're pretty open to people doing that.
I think they really like to see the student take the initiative as well. So if the student approaches somebody to set up the co-op program, that seems to work best.
Yeah.
You need buy-in from the student and a commitment from the student if it's going to be successful. I guess that's been our experience anyway.
Another question here for the young producers again. As young producers, where do you guys see your next 5 to 10 years going? So I'm guessing as you graduate and you move forward, what's your 5 to 10 year plan going to be? Robert, why don't we start with you? You haven't said too much. We're going to go with you.
I haven't said enough, eh?
Yeah.
So I guess it's going to take me a little longer to graduate than the other two. So probably I hope to return to the farm eventually. What the road takes to get back to the farm, I'll have to wait and see. But ultimately, I'd like to be at least on the farm part-time after graduation and slowly work into the operation as it allows, and hopefully continue to work with the other guys we have on the panel tonight and kind of continue towards where the farm's going.
Okay, good. Ethan and Jason?
I think in 5 to 10 years, obviously I have to keep working as well, but just keep trying to build equity and kind of get your foot in the door with a bit more land so you can afford to make a little bit bigger jumps and stuff with equipment and cow numbers and stuff. Ideally someday do it full time, but I don't know. The land price kind of governs that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
5 to 10 years. So I don't know if it was said, but Julie and I were married. So I guess thinking that way, 5 to 10 years, hopefully there's a family down there somewhere, and then obviously like the big goal is be able to buy a farm, somewhere to call our own, and we have with the freezer beef somewhere to kind of have the freezer beef centered out of. Little not necessarily a storefront, but something like that. And then yeah, just grow the farm as much as is possible for us to, right now still have off-farm jobs and then come home and work on the farm, but not be too burnt out from doing that. So I guess 5 to 10 years, it would be nice to be maybe one of us closer to the 10 years be able to be on the farm, but that's kind of the goal. I don't know. Every new bit of growth that we think about and scheme about, we just say it's one step closer to being able to be on the farm full time. That's kind of how we think. That's kind of our goal. But yeah.
Tom, what about you? I know we can't see you, but still like to hear from you.
Yeah, I guess my for sure goals would be to improve the pasture management and build the cattle herd a bit with what I can with the land base that I have, and then some more. I don't know if it'd be more dreams or something like looking into the possibility of Northern Ontario, specifically in Manitoulin, from the influence that I've had here. Kind of like what I see up there, so just looking into the options up there and seeing if that might be the right move for me in the next 5 to 10 years or however long that takes.
Yeah. So yeah, I know since you guys obviously land prices are kind of a big thing for young producers right now, because that's obviously a big hurdle, and you guys are with the renting. So you guys are currently renting a lot right now. Are you guys thinking at all, like with the Manitoulin and that sort of thing, would moving be one of those things that you're thinking of, or is where you're renting right now? What's kind of in your head that way?
You might wonder why we're smiling. It's just kind of a running joke as to who's going to go up to Manitoulin and take care of the cows up there. But I don't know. For Julie and I, it's always it's been a real fascination. She actually has family up there and stuff. But with the freezer beef that we've kind of just started the past years, slowly trying to work into that. I don't know if there's as much opportunity on the island for that. We're close to the big customer base, the GTA and even the Collingwood area, the tourism and whatnot. So that's definitely something holding us back from Manitoulin or moving anywhere, not necessarily there, just somewhere with land more available. That's kind of where we're at.
Myself, renting land is working now, and I haven't decided, but yeah, moving up north is definitely an option because while you can't pay for it off of that farm specifically, it's easier to pay for it with the price difference, and you still have to be working extra hours to make that work, but definitely seems a little bit more attainable, but not saying that you couldn't do it down here if you're a smart guy or girl.
Yeah, and then I just have another question for you guys. Like when obviously when you first started kind of working for James and Joan, how did you guys first kind of approach them about doing your cow shares and approaching them, or did they come to you to do it? Like what was that first kind of little stepping stone that made you guys confident enough to kind of approach them as your mentors in getting started in the beef industry?
Well, kind of started working for them. Me and Robert are the same age, went to school together, and I guess picking stones after school in the spring mainly. And with the cattle and shares starting, I think James kind of brought it up first or whatever to think about. I know what really worked well and how kind of we've kept going with that for buying a couple odds and ends cows and stuff is out of their bigger herd calving in the early spring. I know the first couple and the ones that I've got since have all been cows that get bred out of season for them. So it's not real ideal for them in the middle of hay to be looking after a couple of oddball calves and stuff, and a lot harder to manage. It just works well for somebody just looking for a couple to get into them then. And it worked well for us because calving in the summer or later spring now, I guess, is where we want to be, and it's easier to kind of sync up a couple of cows to a smaller herd than it is in a bigger system. So yeah, I don't know who initially, I think James initially asked if I'd be interested in something like that, but it just happened to all work out good, and yeah.
That's good. James, another question has popped up here. If you would,
I think Tom has a comment to that too,
oh, yeah,
Bethany,
sure.
if we have time. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I specifically remember it was James initiating that conversation. We were coming back from Manitoulin and we finished building a little shed up there, and he asked about this farm of a family friend and asked why don't I rent it, and then that was about 8:30 at night. I was a little bit too tired to think of it at that time, but we just kept talking about it at lunch every day and kind of moved forward. That would have been around Christmas, and I didn't start renting it until April. So kind of baby steps and talking about what you want to do and how it kind of works. And then the same as Jason, a very wide calving window. I started 1st of June. I didn't finish till Thanksgiving weekend. So hoping to narrow that in next year, but definitely has its challenges, but it's a lot of fun too. So.
That's good. It's good to hear that you're the one that was asking them, James. That's good. A quick question for you, James, if you're able to answer. If you could just answer to what's the current land value in the area where you are there in Blue Mountain?
It varies a fair bit. Probably low end would be 10,000 an acre. If you have a view property, a stream, a rock outcropping, whatever you want, whatever price you want to put on it, I guess. So minimum would be 10,000 an acre up to 20,000 an acre, I guess, sort of thing.
Okay.
That's in our home area?
Yeah, I believe that was what you were asking.
Yeah.
In Grey County, yes.
In our part of Grey County, yeah.
Which is also a bit of the reason why there is land for rent, because it's often owned by people from Toronto. So there is they are open to renting land.
I've been kind of surprised how much land both Tom and Jason have been able, and Ethan and Julie have been able to put together. Now, they're not getting the choice pieces of dirt, but they've been able to put in and put together a pretty nice land base as well. So and growing too.
I think it's worthwhile to say too that that's how James got started as well. Started in '76, renting his first property.
74, 73, I guess.
73. And he'll often say that's where he made his most money when he was renting land. And part of that is because some of them are low rent.
Yeah. Another question for the young producers here. Has any other industry come to mind other than the beef industry, or has this always been your main focus for these years? Any other sort of thing come up other than the hard work and the going out in the snow to feed the cows kind of thing, especially with the weather we've been having, thinking that maybe this isn't what you exactly want to do, or is this kind of it?
From working at McKinlay, it's like I've always been tied to the cattle. I enjoy that part of the job and I enjoy working with cattle. Like they also have the cash crop or crop side of things. And I think that those two, like having cattle and crops, I think that works really well together. For getting started, I kind of thing for our area with rental farms and usually small farms, not like James said, not real choice ground and stuff. The cropping in the future would be something I'd definitely be more interested in doing more of, but that's a lot more equipment stuff where like we do have enough to do it, but old little equipment, and then you need a lot more ground and stuff and better ground, so kind of hard to jump into that as quick as some of the pasture land and pasture farms. But yeah, I don't know.
I guess like what James was saying, with a round baler and electric fencer, you can do a lot. You know, I guess compared to crops, it takes a little bit more.
Mhm.
Working in the dairy side a wee bit, beef cows don't want me up at 4 a.m, which is a feature that I like, and I guess it comes back to if you don't love it, you're not going to do it. And I enjoy carpentry, but I think the cows keep me coming back because I enjoy being out with them and enjoy the benefits they have to offer, letting you walk through the pasture with them and just stuff like that. Little moments that mean a lot in the long run.
I should mention too, I worked on a dairy farm for 4 years, and I really loved it there. They grew crops as well, and you mentioned, like, do you think you'd just be tied to the beef industry? And I think I would definitely consider, milking cows if the opportunity arose. But I guess that, comes back to the finance issue as well. I know there's the new entry program and things like that. And oftentimes Julie and I, we scheme about that and whatnot. But for right now, the beef cows have made us. We're very happy with them, and if something else arose, we'd definitely consider it. But I don't think we'll get rid of the beef cows. That's for sure.
That's what you're stuck with, eh? Yeah. Yeah. No, well, that's good. 9:02, so you guys, I think we're kind of at where people are ready to start getting ready for bed anyway. Maybe not quite yet, but getting there. But I really want to appreciate you guys taking the time out and joining us for this webinar. I know it's been really informative and something different that a lot of people have joined us tonight would have been interested in seeing and talking to you guys for having taken part in kind of a different way of doing things and the mentorship that James and Joan have done with you, and just hearing the way that James and Joan have gone about kind of just getting you guys interested in, I hate using this term, but like taking you by the hand and moving you along. It's not really taking you by the hand, but you know what I'm trying to say that way. And just hearing from you, James, and why you're doing it, and the passion that you show in trying to encourage young people and getting involved in the industry and staying there and helping them move forward. That's great to hear from you and all that you've done. And hopefully if anybody else who's been listening tonight has any other questions or anything, you can reach out to me and I can put you into contact with James, because I know he loves hearing from people who want to hear more about what he's been doing. And if anybody has any other questions for me, I'd be happy to hear from you as well. So thank you guys tonight for taking the time out, and hopefully we'll be hearing some more from you guys and from what you guys have been doing in the future. It's great to talk to you guys, and we'll let you go for the evening. So thanks again and have a good night.
Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you, and our pleasure.
Yeah. Night, guys.